All right, let's just dive right in. We're about to unpack a story that's happening inside your head right now. It's a tale of two brains, and it's all about the hidden complexities that really govern how you think, how you feel, and what you remember. But let's kick things off with a question for you. Have you ever felt anxious, maybe a little jittery, or just couldn't focus, and you just assumed, well, that's anxiety? What if your brain was actually sending a completely different signal, something that had more to do with what you ate for lunch than your emotional state?
You see, this is the thing, right? We get handed these simple labels all the time. If you can't focus, they say you've got an attention problem, but the real story is almost always deeper, it's more intricate, and honestly, it's way more fascinating. It's a story that's written in the electrical rhythms of your brain.
And that brings us to our first major duality. We're going to talk about a specific brainwave called theta. But here's the twist. It's not just one thing. It's actually two completely distinct networks doing very different jobs.
So what even is a theta wave? Well, think of it as one of the brain's most foundational rhythms. It's ancient, and it's absolutely critical. It's kind of like the bridge that connects your conscious thoughts to your memories, and even to your body's physical responses. It's a real master communicator. Now, a common myth you might hear is that you've got good theta and bad theta, and the goal is just to get rid of the bad stuff. But that's just way too simplistic. The truth is, the brain uses two different theta frequencies for two completely different and equally important jobs. And here they are. Let's meet the two players in this story. We have what's called recurrent theta, and then we have ascending theta. They operate at slightly different speeds in different parts of the brain, and they're running two totally separate but crucial programs. Let's break them down. First up, recurrent theta. This is the slower of the two, humming along at around 3 to 4 hertz, and it is the rhythm of your inner world. It runs what's called the default mode network, which is that part of your brain that lights up when you're reflecting or daydreaming or just lost in thought. This is where rumination lives, that whole process of chewing on memories and feelings. It's a deeply emotional and almost automatic process.
Then we have ascending theta. This one's a bit faster, at 5 to 7 hertz. And this is the rhythm of external focus and learning. It's what drives your central executive network, helping you point your attention to things out in the world, soak up new information, and hold on to it in your working memory. So you get the picture, right? One theta looks inward at emotion, the other looks outward to learn and focus.
Now that distinction is already pretty amazing, but it leads to an even bigger question. What if the amount of a brainwave isn't the most important thing? What if the real secret is hiding in its speed?
This brings us to a concept called dominant frequency. This isn't about how much power a brainwave has, it's about how fast it's cycling. Think of it like a car's engine. It's not just about how loud the engine is, but how many RPMs it's running at. That speed can tell you a ton about what's really going on under the hood.
Let's look at a real example with the alpha brainwave. In a healthy, relaxed brain with its eyes closed, the alpha waves should be humming along at a peak speed somewhere between 9.5 and 10.5 cycles per second. That's our neurological sweet spot. It's a sign of a well-oiled machine. But what happens when that speed is off? What does it mean if your brain's resting rhythm is either revving too high or idling too low? This is where things get really interesting, because the answer often isn't psychological, it's physiological.
And this is wild. When researchers looked at thousands of brain maps, they found this incredibly strong connection. We're talking over a 70% correlation between an alpha frequency that's running too fast, so over 10.5 hertz, and blood sugar issues. This means that feeling of anxiety could literally be your brain reacting to metabolic stress.
And on the flip side, if the alpha frequency is too slow, running below that 9.5 hertz baseline, it points to a completely different set of potential root causes. This pattern is often linked to things like your thyroid, liver function, or just a general state of inflammation in the body. It's like the brain is slowing down because its energy supply chain is getting pinched. This brilliantly illustrates the next huge duality, the massive gap that can exist between how we think we feel and what's actually happening in our nervous system. It's our subjective perception versus objective reality. Let's look at a real-world case. A client comes in and says this. It sounds pretty mild, doesn't it? This is their subjective report, what they believe is going on. They feel a bit off, but hey, they think they're generally okay. But then you look at the objective data from their EEG, and whoa, the brain is telling a completely different story. It shows clear, significant markers for chronic anxiety and hypervigilance. This person has become so used to being in this state of high alert that it feels normal to them.
Their brain is screaming, but their conscious mind has learned to tune it out.
So, what do we do with all this? How do we build a plan that actually respects these complex dualities? This is where we move from just observing symptoms to creating a true holistic health blueprint.
The old model was very technology-focused. It saw a problem on the EEG and tried to fix it with the tool, just treating the symptom. But the functional model asks a much better question. Why? Why is the brain doing this in the first place? It looks for the root cause.
This functional approach follows a really clear three-step process. First, you play detective and find the root cause. Is that anxiety actually a blood sugar issue? Second, you create a plan that is completely individualized because every person's system is unique. And third, you integrate all the pieces, lifestyle, physiology, and environment. The whole picture.
So the crucial point here is this. The goal shifts. It's no longer about just zapping a single problem into submission. It's about building a deep understanding of the whole interconnected system. That beautiful, complex interplay between the brain, the body, and a person's life.
Which leaves us with one final powerful question to consider. The next time you feel a certain way, anxious, unfocused, tired, take a moment and just ask yourself, beyond the simple label, what is my brain really trying to tell me?